The rationale behind was to try to understand a bit better about markers at MRI of chronic active lesion in multiple sclerosis, because we are aware about the role and importance of this type of lesions in driving progression of disability in multiple sclerosis. So as as a clinical need, it was important to assess the most feasible, let's say, and also those markers that are applicable in then practice. And we know now that there are these two types, the slowly expanding lesion or SELs and the paramagnetic rim lesions, this PRL, which have been shown in different studies to have an impact. Therefore, as they've never been studied in combination, we decided to do this as a project, part also of my PhD. This was born as a collaboration also with a university at Barcelona, via the Bron Institute de Recerca. And it was also nice opportunity between fellows of Magnims, because I was at that time a fellow of this collaborative initiative between centers studying imaging in MS, research centers. So me and Dr. Margareta Clark, we used some data from the Institute in Barcelona after an agreement between the centers, and they were basically studied images using the deformation maps to extract slowly expanding lesions, and at the same time the susceptibility weighted imaging was SWI to extract the pearls. And finally we were able to assess up to 61 subjects, which were at quite interesting cohort, because it was very early onset. So at the beginning, let's say, of the condition of their MS. So it was possible to identify both of these markers. And the very interesting aspect was that they were going in some part associating, because we found that higher percentages of these pearl lesions or lesions with the rims were found in the subgroup of cells, while this was not, this percentage was higher compared to these lesions with rim in the subgroup of non-cells. So that was an interesting part. Also, we looked a bit into other aspects, so trying to make some subgroup of this cohort, depending on the presence or the absence of these two markers, the combination of them. And we looked then at all the radiological characteristic, and it was also interesting to find out that there were higher total lesion loads in the groups that had the combination of the two markers. So this was also going towards a sort of association of, let's say, worse prediction of for patients with both of these markers. And finally, we also looked at the clinical scores in combination with these MRI markers. And it was interesting to see that in groups that had both of the cells and pearls, there were predictions of higher EDSS at follow-up. So those scans were, let's say, available up to a median of 3 years at the final follow-up, but some of the subjects had also scans up to 8 years at the latest scan. And it was interesting to see that the ones who had both of these two markers had also a higher EDSS at the final follow-up using a prediction model, a mixed effect model. Therefore, that's basically what we did, and it's just an initial pilot analysis. And I think that there is a lot to understand about these markers, and especially they are detecting different things, and of course the pathological basis also, so the biology behind it's very important to then give us more answers. But it's a starting point, I think, for also trying to understand what are those risk factors which all the time we're trying to look at, especially in the clinics, as neurologists and neuroradiologists, all the team supporting people with MS. So I think it's a starting point. It's quite interesting. Then the correlation, the clinical implication, I think they are quite important, because looking at what is the outcome, so this score, the expanded disability status scale, the EDSS, was in a way impacted by the combination of the two markers. So in general, I think there were some parts that were more expected from my team also, and the team at Barcelona, but other parts were also a surprise for us, and were really, I think, really important for us.